What is Bullshit Mountain? Thoughts on meaningful goal setting in English. Bullshit Mountain refers to a mental place with completely false self-perception. This can happen through misinformation that one is intentionally exposed to. On the other hand, there's a psychological mechanism I want to explore today. The Dunning-Kruger effect plays a major role in climbing Bullshit Mountain. This effect occurs because people with little knowledge often can't recognize their own mistakes or gaps in understanding. They don't realize when they are doing something wrong. In a learning process, the Dunning-Kruger effect is a normal transitional stage that gets overcome with increasing experience. Bullshit Mountain is essentially the Mount Everest of self-deception. One should cross over Bullshit Mountain and reach the sobering, dark valley of constant learning. Gaining expertise in a field takes years and self-discipline. Not a pleasant outlook. Don't worry, life doesn't actually become worse or more stupid because of this. It remains what it is. Because learning and practice can't be rushed, it's tempting to linger on Bullshit Mountain. Many do this to nurture a feeling of perfection that's illusory because it never comes into contact with the real cliffs of everyday life. Popular YouTube formats inherently promise quick and easy learning to appear likable and successful. Learn Python in 5 hours. Become a successful programmer in 6 months and land a well-paid job. Who wouldn't gladly accept such an offer? Free. Or if you want it completely effortless with no prior knowledge, a crash course in becoming mystical. The problem with such offers that promise much and thus give you a good feeling about being on the path to Bullshit Mountain's peak is that they steal your time. You can reach Bullshit Mountain's summit more easily with 3 large beers, but you can get stuck for days, weeks, even years in the endless loops of these shady guides with false promises who skillfully supply you with oxygen tanks of illusion while you make no real progress. You're trapped in the fog of self-deception, and the guides ruthlessly exploit this, telling eager summit seekers about false peaks awaiting them along the way. But honestly, are we really seeking education or just the illusion of competence? Of course there's then a course offering that promises clarity, or exactly that, but it's often hopelessly overpriced. Because an experienced Bullshit Mountain guide gets paid very well for their time spent creating endless loop videos. That's all working time that must be factored into this business model. In the end, the customer always also pays for the advertising. From my perspective, commercial YouTube channels are therefore always far above market price. There are books, free tutorials, community colleges, learning platforms, also yoga schools that are much more affordable because they hardly need to pay for advertising. Of course, what you get is more modest than lessons from one of the big YouTube coaches who have become today's more economical version of movie stars. The old film studios were considerably more expensive in their production. Today's productions are naturally cheaper goods, but the YouTube guru remains, even with worse makeup, inherently much more expensive than someone working without a YouTube presence. But sometimes people want the glamour and gladly pay more for it. Entire industries live off this widespread desire. Human psychology roughly works such that something appearing cheap can't be as good as something expensive. From an original farmer's market perspective, this is certainly true. At a farmer's market, it's about materials, the quality of goods that buyers can realistically assess. This disappears in the virtual world. You can't really tell if YouTube provider is good or bad, whether a hotel with photos in a portal is good or bad. You're often buying a pig in a poke and then making your own experiences. The trick as YouTube guru is to charge double the price, as people then unconsciously assume the offer must be twice as good as others. This false assumption is something buyers are very reluctant to admit to themselves, clinging stubbornly to their belief in the supposed double value of the product. This is the sunk cost fallacy. It's the classic psychological mistake at the stock market that sends losses into freefall. Since this is universal human psychology, it's very good to know yourself well in this regard. Who hasn't watched videos for hours only to feel they've learned nothing? I noticed 2 types of endless loops addictive algorithms that keep us scrolling first, watching video after video hoping to eventually get it. To conquer Bullshit Mountain, since you only need to watch the videos, this is a tempting procrastination trap. Procrastination means I keep putting off what's actually important, endlessly. These are the dangerous crevices of procrastination lurking imperceptibly on the path to the summit, eager to drag you into the abyss of ignorance. How to stop? Start working seriously. But it's tempting to linger on the peak of illusion, yet the descent into the valley of realization is inevitable. For YouTube consumers, it's about generating reward kicks in the brain through videos, those dopamine hits from likes, comments or subscribers. Ideally, the YouTuber's clicks become the viewer's kicks. Or vice versa, keyword addictive social media, the click economy, a business model based on attention and advertising. Or the influencer industry, the commercialized world of YouTube stars and social media personalities. And at its center, the octopus of algorithmic manipulation. The other type of endless loop involves providers skilled at selling costly offers. Modern coaching, one might call it, always somewhat vague so every customer can project their own interpretation onto it. Finally, someone who takes me seriously. That's when it gets dangerous. Often four-figure sums or more are demanded, potentially endless, as the marketing becomes increasingly aggressive. The metaphor of Bullshit Mountain helped clarify things for me as a guide. The job is to bring people to the summit and then right back to the starting point. It's like those bus tours on vacation. It's about a planned experience before returning to everyday work life. Price-wise as well as time-wise, certain seminars align with tourist events. Comparing it to this, I'm less surprised. It fits. Have I understood? 3 yoga sessions weekly for a year would cost similarly, but appeals to completely different people. These people cross Bullshit Mountain and face applying what they've learned in daily life. Naturally, few become yoga gurus after a year, but differently 3 days of summit experience on Bullshit Mountain can make one feel that way, like a guided camel ride through the desert planned, but without real challenge. Strategies for overcoming most important is understanding these dynamics. Hence the striking metaphor of Bullshit Mountain. Then learn prices early. Bullshit Mountain guides are typically 10x more expensive than initially estimated. The estimate first then see test is an important tool. Comparison alone is already a serious hint. Next step, check the situation before hypnotic language patterns take hold, making people irrationally hang on the guide's every word. YouTube providers are linguistically trained salespeople who captivate audiences this way. It's like Odysseus and the Sirens, or those notorious butter trips where hopelessly overpriced goods get sold, before others in the group might strike before you. Conversely, lots of people acting irrationally enchanted is another serious sign you're on a Bullshit Mountain tour. The role of social media are the mass media of our time. Anyone can now practically publish free advertising, which naturally needs clever disguising. First it's about getting a foot in the door, then offers come more discreetly and inconspicuously, often 10x more expensive than assumed, and you become part of an irrational enchanted buyer group. Gone are the days when people populated the internet with content without financial motives. Those times really existed once. Today the internet is commercialized. Nostalgia or anger about shady dealers on YouTube isn't a solution. It helps to recognize reality on mass media like YouTube. Such offers will inevitably come your way. As certain as there are men in church, but political propaganda or strange people will also find hunting grounds there. On the other hand, might this be exactly what many people seek, to switch off or dream about something new? In exoticism, just as mass tourism arises from demand and some deficiency, so it is with Bullshit Mountain business. Here, personal clarity about what you want or no longer want to be helps. Ask yourself, am I really on the path to expertise or just traveling Bullshit Mountain? Or stop wasting time with endless videos, start really learning. Or you have a choice, remain on the peak of illusion, or descend into the valley of realization. And one last, imagine what it would be like to invest your time in real learning and growth. But then start and do something. Important psychological effects: confirmation bias, tendency to seek information confirming existing beliefs. Ignoring or discounting contradictory information leads to entrenched views. Halo effect, a positive perception of one trait influences assessment of other traits. Attractiveness or likability leads to positive attributions, for example intelligence, kindness. Distorts objective judgments about people or things. What always helps are humility, gratitude and pursuing long-term via short-term successes. As the manifesto esoterics for the poor states, we are those who buy cheap tea at the supermarket yet claim it's energetically charged. We are those who meditate in the park because we can't afford a Bali retreat. We are those who believe in the power of small things and that one can be happy and content without expensive courses.